If you're unemployed, how long you've been looking and what's your specialty/years of experience? And the second question is how actually bad it's the job market, the developer job market. I'm seeing lots of people who have been looking for a while. Do you think it's holding you back that you may not have industry experience with whatever new tools that came out the past year or so? Actually, the reason we wanted to make this video, Bogdan, is to talk about long-term unemployment as a software engineer. What qualifies as long-term? For us, it's anything that's a bit longer than 6 months, where you actually need an explanation for the gap, right? And sadly, because of the state of the market, we had mass layoffs and the market wasn't able to assimilate everybody, right? So we've got, you see developers having long stretches of unemployment, which can qualify as long-term unemployment. And the question is, how do you deal with it? Because every month that goes by, it gets harder, right? It's a tricky game. And talking about long-term unemployment, we will discuss how do you explain the gap in your resume if you've been unemployed for a longer time? What do you do in between jobs to fill this time? How do you prepare? And will the market get better, or is this a permanent trend in software engineering? So how do you explain the gap in your resume when you've been unemployed for more than a few months as a software engineer?
The most important thing is that no one wants to hire someone that just has been waiting for a job. You don't want to look like this passive person or like a person that's not capable of getting a job. They don't know you and they just kind of will reach the worst conclusions. So in general, recruiters are very skeptic. They are very risk prone. So the moment they see something like that, they'll be like, okay, we will call you. And then they'll tell you, they found someone else. What
you mean risk adverse, right?
Exactly, risk adverse. What you want to be doing is to fill that gap with ideally experience that is very close to your job. I'm going to give you some ideas and I will rank them by the least preferred one. So the number one thing you could tell people, your experience ended at this place and you've been there for a long time. If you've been there for a long time, you decided to take a sabbatical and travel around for 6 months and now you're back. That's kind of a legit explanation for a gap. It's still better than I got laid off and I'm looking for a job. Option B, which is even better, is you start reaching out to any friend that you have that has some startup and they need some technical help. It doesn't matter if it's just changing images in a WordPress website, a static website, or doing some CSS. You don't need to be the CTO in-house, but you join as a founding engineer and you help them part-time. So maybe you put in 10 hours a week, and then you can say that that's actually your employment. And then when you go to the market and people ask you, okay, tell me about what you're doing right now, say, well, my experience at this place ended. And then I decided to take the spin-off and go into more of a startup environment where I could take faster decisions, set up the cloud infrastructure and help them with the front-end part. And right now they're looking for financing. So there's not a lot to do. And I'm back to looking for an actual position to a more consolidated company. That could work.
And just to jump in, Bogdan, it's very important. You were telling a story, a coherent story, right? So the question is here, how do you explain the gap? The gap doesn't matter that much. What matters more, it's kind of how the gap fits into the narrative. So what you should pay attention is look at your resume from top to bottom and look for inconsistencies in the narrative. Things that don't seem like this uniform, easy to understand transition, right? And growth from junior to mid to senior for a recruiter. Right? And work on the narrative first, because if you have a good narrative, if you have a good way to tell your resume, then whether it's a sabbatical or whether you have like a gig that you're doing in between, that's going to cut it, right? But if you have a gap and then you have a resume that looks like a Frankenstein, where you've been an analyst, then you've been a developer, you see people with all kind of titles in the resume, they don't tell a story, right? Then that's going to be, the gap is going to, it seems like the gap is the issue, but it's not the gap, it's the resume itself, right?
Exactly. You're looking for what we call the natural progression. So if you're a junior front-end engineer, then you're a front-end engineer, then you're a senior front-end engineer, and then you're a principal staff engineer. That's a natural progression. If you were a data analyst and then you're like a back-end developer and now you're doing DevOps, then that seems like somebody that doesn't really have any expertise. Option number 3, if you don't have a gig, if you don't have a friend that has a startup, you look for any non-profit organization, any kind of your local Red Cross. They have a website and they need some help. Or you look for any meetup group that in general you have people there that have like open source projects that maybe you can join, but you basically try to build a project with someone and you can use that. And if you participate enough in that one, you have enough details and stories to make it look like almost a full-time position. So you fill that gap. It doesn't look like you're just been unemployed, applying to jobs and waiting for answers, because time flies and it will get harder and harder for you to explain the gap.
Now, on to the second point, right? Once you've done this, I think you could also mention like hackathons, AI hackathons. Those are good ways to find a project, right? Find something to do. But what do you do in between jobs? Because this is how to explain the gap. But what should you do exactly during that time?
So the more your story of you going to the market and what you're doing, the closer they are, the better the narrative will be. So you mentioned that we need a narrative, but the way for you to sell a narrative is to be very specific, and you will only be very specific about the things you actually do. It's very hard to lie, and it will be very uncomfortable, and recruiters are kind of trained. So people that think I'm just going to tell them a story and get away with it, they are professional detectives and you're an amateur. It's most likely won't work. What I would do to split your time 50-50, so invest 50% in job searching activity, usually in the afternoon. That's a low energy task, apply to jobs, respond to email. And then in the morning, either do that one thing that you found, either that gig or the nonprofit work, or upskill technically. Now, very important, a lot of people ask us, do you need side projects? And a lot of people are telling online this advice of you need a portfolio. A portfolio will immediately get you disqualified, and presenting side projects will make you look like a junior developer. That's why, just to clarify point one, you want the project that has ideally some real utility and there it's a team around it, because then they'll ask you, who are you working on with? Were you doing sprints? What was the tech stack? And you cannot just say it was a to-do app or whatever the side project was. Nobody hires a solo developer. They will immediately start thinking that you cannot relate to others, or it was a small project where you aren't doing much, and you'll get rejected.
The other thing, and now listening about this, Bogdan, a lot of developers probably struggle. Like, imagine, you've been out of a job for maybe 8 months, 9 months, and you're trying to do all this to fill the gap and tell a story. But a lot of them don't buy the story themselves. They're like, hey, I'm lying, or I'm trying to trick somebody. I'm telling things that are not 100% factual, or I'm kind of picking this little project and making it look like, I haven't done this. What I wanted to ask is, how do you get the right mindset, right? Because that's usually a mindset issue. How can they fix that for them to have more confidence and to believe what they're saying,
I think a lot of that mindset comes from traditional education, where, you have a very clear way to pass an exam. And then if you did well, you get 6/10 or whatever education system you're in, and 10 out of 10. It's kind of clear, more or less, what the criteria are. But you cannot apply that to the job market. The reality is that your career is very complex. Like some of you've been full stack, then you've been front end, then you did this, and then you go in and they look for a front end developer. Now, a recruiter will not take the risk. They will want the person that looks exactly like the job offer they've written and looks exactly like the tech stack they have. So your job is to look at your experience and appear like you are that person, so you get to the technical interview. And once you get the technical interview, then it's all about the technical skills. So you can tell yourself whatever story you want. A lot of people have the problem that their resume looks like their career, which is not the case. The resume, it's tailored to the specific specialization you go in. So you got to extract what you've been doing and position it for that job. So you can think of it as you're preparing a landing page for a specific product, and the person came there to buy that, and they have certain biases. They might not be true, but that's not what the biases they have. So you either show them something that gets their attention and gets to the interview, or you're out. How you want to interpret that from an ethic point of view, again, it's not about lying. It's about subtracting from all your experience the right narrative and presenting natural progression and not having big gaps that you can't explain.
The other thing I would say is, don't internalize this gap as a personal failure. Right, and people think, hey, there's some ideal developer out there who never has been unemployed, who's a senior, who has this perfect resume, and that developer doesn't exist. Maybe you got laid off in your last job, and maybe it was because of performance issues, or that's what they said, and you never know. Now, think about it. You could have gotten sick, and be 9 months, had to take a break, then go back to the market. Or maybe you have a lot of people, and specifically women, that become parents, right? And they have to take a huge break. And then if you are internalizing this gap as a failure or as something is wrong with me, then it's game over. Because it's not. That gap could have happened because of 1,000 different reasons. And people, the people that you see and it looks like they have perfect LinkedIn profiles and perfect resumes, is because they did that job and they fill the gaps, right? Nobody has a perfect resume. Everybody's kind of trying to tell a compelling story, okay? We can move to the third point. So just to recap, You need a coherent way to explain the gap that has a strong narrative, and you need to get busy. While you're applying to jobs, split your time 50-50. Bogdan, you said deep work in the morning, like upskilling and working on a project. But maybe because these days in job applications, sometimes it matters more to be first than to have the best resume. So you might have to wake up in the morning and apply to some jobs, like the first thing you do. That's something you want to see depending on the dynamics of your local job market, right? And then forget about portfolios and side projects because they scream junior, right? What you should do is take that experience and communicate it in the most senior way you can, right? Now, just a speculative question, will the market get better and when? I guess a lot of people that are on the sidelines are asking themselves this.
I think the market would sadly get better, but I think you'll be more successful if you assume it won't. And so the only constant is assume the market is a constant and assume the variable is your performance and your skills. And that given a long enough time frame, you will make it. Okay. So you need this kind of pessimism, but at the same time, optimism, where you don't hope for salvation. I see a lot of people just kind of waiting, okay, maybe it gets better, and they're paralyzed by the bad news. And the reality is getting a senior job and a very well-paid job was always hard. And what happens now is that threshold kind of raised. So getting a decent job, it's hard. That's the reality of the situation. I'm not going to get into the reasons why this is like that. I do believe, and we've seen an increase, people that are getting offers in general, they do it so at the same salary level as between. Maybe it's like variations, but we don't see salaries decreasing. What you do see is a lot more candidates per position, and it's a lot harder to get that position. Like your margin for errors in interviews is just a lot lower. That's the only thing. But what I would say is assume the market won't get better, even if we are seeing it is getting better, but be sure that you are getting better every day.
Just talking about that, what I've seen from the developers I talked to, they feel like an injustice has been made. So a lot of them are frustrated. Of course, I don't blame them. I mean, if you've been unemployed for a long time, you've got bills to pay, you went through, you send applications, maybe you got like even to the final stages, very close, just to get ghosted. It's painful. And it's because, as we mentioned in other videos, you're getting emotionally attached to the process itself, which you shouldn't until you get an offer. But the other thing, it's also a mindset question. People are angry at companies that they are doing this. At AI companies, they are angry with the state of the world and the economy, and they don't really have a solution. And that's my question to you. Why should I go through a 5 stages interview process for 8 months to get a job that I have 5 to 6 years experience for?
Well, the number one mindset change I would say is every interview in those 7 stages, every interview was an opportunity for you to practice a certain set of skills. So even if you get rejected at the end, I would still go through it. That's number one, because you're going to have to do live coding. You're going to have to do system design. You are going to learn because whenever they ask you questions, you actually learn from them and you're getting references. And let's be honest, interviewing in a career that is 30 to 40 years old, interviewing, it's like a core skill and you don't get enough interview experience. Like most people, they just get the job and they stay there for the next 5 years and then they are terrified of the market. You don't have any leverage like that. It's like basically a salesperson that's afraid of selling themselves. You're not going to move. You're going to stay in bad jobs. Your boss has whatever power they want over you. If you don't get a raise, you'll have to stick it and suck it up. So that's not a situation you want to be in anyhow. You should focus on the process. And if they say they have 5 stages or 7, unfortunately, you cannot change that. If you try to squeeze them, they'll tell you this is a process and you either comply or not. They have a process. It might not be the best one. You can tell them what to change on, but you are selling yourself to them. They are going to the market, they're making this position, and they get more candidates. So I would step back. And when it comes to your first question, which was negativity and bitterness, nature favors the optimist. And so regardless the situation is, you got to control your inner voices, you got to control your attitude, and you get bitter when you focus on the things you can't change, like the number of job posting, like what they would answer me from that interview. And you get happy when you start seeing all the impact you do have. And I promise you, if you take a bit of care of, you understand how recruiters think and you position your resume well, and you don't have a big gap because you've been busy building things, even if you aren't getting paid for it, you will make it. Like, people still need software. That reality did not change. The only things that change is kind of the macroeconomics, and everybody's affected, okay? I know HR people that cannot find a job. The product managers that got laid off also cannot find a job. This is just an economical downturn, and you cannot beat the storm, but you can outlast it.
Yeah, and really don't make it about yourself. I know that there's a lot of narratives out there how coding is going to be obsolete and developers are not needed. But you can say the same, they're saying the same about marketing people. They're saying the same about doctors. So it's either everyone is getting replaced or nobody's getting replaced. Like if everyone is getting replaced, you don't have a problem. We're all gonna have a problem. If nobody's getting replaced, then you better be coding, right? Because if not, a developer that's, think about what would you like your competitor to do, right? So if there is one developer who is just paralyzed, and there is another one who's like, okay, the market is not great, but I'm gonna do my best, then I can guarantee you the second one will get better results. Right? With that being said, folks, check the technical assessment we have in the comments. The best way to, if you're looking to improve your interview performance and you don't know where to start, the best way is to assess your skills first. And those questions in that assessment were cherry-picked. They are interview questions coming from real interviews that our mentees went through. Also, there is a free training where you can see, how to make it in the current market, and also how Bogdan and I can help you, and even book a call with us if you'd be interested in our mentorship. We will see you in the next one.